today?
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So what kind of rentals do you all own or manage? You guys have condos or apartments?
Houses mostly.
Single family?
Single family houses, yes.
Interesting. Yeah, so now it seems like all of these different eviction moratoriums are really applying to all kinds of rentals. So, you know, when we created this meeting, I figured we'd have everybody included because it really does affect everybody, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I see here some people with fourplexes, manager of apartments, apartment buildings, duplex. So we have quite a mix here going on, which is interesting.
So I happen to be an attorney who does eviction cases, both commercial and residential.
Oh, fantastic.
So I was hoping to get information from you, but maybe I'll be giving information to other people.
You might be. Yeah, it's actually fantastic to have somebody like that on the call. Do you service just what county do you have like a limit?
I've got one difficult case in Orange County, but I typically handle primarily Los Angeles, but I go as far as Ventura, Riverside, San Bernardino.
What's the case that you're working on? Are you able to talk a little bit about it? I'm curious to hear about it.
It's a nightmare. A trust owns a home in Laguna Beach, and they rented it to a woman with 3 kids, and her boyfriend moved in with his 3 kids, and they just there was the discovery that there was asbestos on the property, and they are hindering that process to allow them to stay in the property rent-free, and they've been there not paying rent since November. And in the meantime, the couple have moved to a new condo that they own, and so they are subleasing, they're allowing their daughter and her boyfriend to sublease the property illegally from them, and they've got this asbestos in the backyard that nobody's doing anything about.
What a mess. And so are they trying to use like coronavirus as any sort of like defense or?
No, they're claiming that there was a lack of habitability in the house, but the lack of habitability only gets you a decrease in the amount of rent. It does not allow you to stay there for free. But most of the but most of the work I do is both residential and commercial. And I represent a number of property management companies in the San Gabriel Valley, as well as individual owners of homes, apartment buildings, duplexes, pretty much name it.
That's great. Well, Bruce, then I'll probably be asking you some questions, or if you want to fact check me on some of the things that I've been looking at recently that I was going to bring up, that'd be really helpful because I'm trying to keep up, but at the end of the day, I'm not an attorney like you. So, you know.
And I'm not giving legal advice to anybody.
Right.
I can't do that, but I can describe what I believe the situation is. So, but I can't give individual advice to people in a situation such as this.
Exactly. So, so we're hitting here the time to start, and I mean we kind of already started, but I really wanted to open it up to you guys, and I want to see what you guys are most worried about right now. Are you most worried about tenants not being able to pay rent, or worried about not being able to evict maybe a problematic tenant, or about COVID-19 in your rentals in general?
I have a problem not being able to evict.
You have a problem tenant?
Yeah, I'm actually hired attorney to evict a tenant, but he used COVID-19 as an excuse and haven't paid rent since April.
Oh, wow. Do you find that that's something that, ooh, somebody's on here not muted. So for those of you who aren't talking yet, go ahead and mute yourself. And then you can go ahead and unmute yourself when you do want to talk, and that'll be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically they're using it as an excuse. Are you in LA County or Orange County?
I'm in Orange County. The property is in Newport Beach.
Interesting. So in Orange County, as far as I'm aware, there's no county-wide rules really. It's more so city by city. one of the things that I thought was really interesting was how, you know, a while back we had Governor Newsom who issued a decree that basically let each city create their own moratoriums and their own rules. And he recently extended that period. It was supposed to have expired May 31st.
Right.
So now cities are able to just basically make up their own rules for a little longer.
Is that the governor extend to like a September 30th or something? Or
Yeah,
is it
it's 90 days past the national or the emergency declaration period. And so it's making it very difficult for landlords to essentially know what's going on, because they have to look at not just the state of California and what's there, but also the county that they're in, and then the cities that they have their rentals in. So there's multiple layers of legislation that has been created for COVID. And so you basically have to know what your city's doing, then know what the county is doing, and then know what the state is doing. So it's really allowing cities to just be really strict with their eviction moratoriums, to the point where, like, the city of Los Angeles, for example, is a prime example of like one of the most strict moratoriums that are in place currently, allowing tenants even 12 months past the state of emergency to pay back their rent. So those types of you know, rules are really confusing a lot of landlords who really don't know really where to look.
and also the thing is that their lease ends end of this month, but they still didn't want to move.
Yeah, and that's difficult too, because then, you know, they could claim that, you know, what the reason is related to coronavirus. And either way, landlords don't really have an enforcement mechanism right now. So like the California Judicial Council basically stopped all summons for the courts. So even if you wanted to take them to court, it is quite difficult. Bruce, do you know more about this Judicial Council's decree that basically you can't take anybody to court during this time?
Yes, on April the 6th, the Judicial Council issued a statewide order basically shutting down the court system from working at all. You cannot file cases. If you had a case filed and I had a case filed, you cannot get a summons issued, and you can't serve the papers to sue somebody until you get a summons. All the courts are shut down, and the earliest they're likely to open back up again, even for existing cases, probably won't be until sometime in mid-August.
Wow.
All right, there's one thing that I should mention that most people don't know, and that is that 2 weeks ago, the city passed an emergency ordinance in the city of Los Angeles that says, if you, the landlord, take certain steps with respect to your tenant, the tenant has a new right where they can sue you right now, even though you can't evict them. And if you're found to have violated the rules, they can be awarded a $10,000 penalty.
Yes.
And if the tenant is a senior or disabled, then it's a $15,000 penalty. And basically, you cannot demand documentation from them with respect to their really having been impacted by the COVID virus and or affected by it, and you can't demand personal documents such as medical records or employment records to support their claim. And if you do those things, then if they were to get a lawyer, and you might find yourself as a defendant in a case rather than as the landlord trying to evict somebody.
Cả mười mấy ngàn, không có evict mà còn phạt nữa. Anh vô coi nè.
So for those of you who are not muted currently, make sure you are if you're not talking to the audience.
Đổi màu.
Let's see, I might have to mute all of you guys for a second.
Đẹp khủng khiếp.
Try.
Unbelievable. Free nè. Đẹp lóa.
All right. So I just muted all you guys. You guys can unmute yourself if you want to talk. I think that might be a better way to go about it. Got a thumbs up from Mark. Bruce, thank you. That's a really good explanation and a really good point as well. So that's just an example of a really, in my opinion, extreme way to handle this situation, to basically punish landlords who don't follow through. And I know that there are ways in which, for just Los Angeles County, a tenant can report a landlord and essentially, you know, have an organization enforce this, you know, non-eviction moratorium, and really force the landlord's hand if the tenant is able to show proof or documentation that they have been affected by COVID. So they are definitely starting to implement these kinds of rules that punish landlords for not doing the right thing, or not following the rules that have been put into place for this emergency legislation. It's quite incredible. Right here on the screen that I'm sharing with you guys, I saw this tweet today from the mayor of LA, which is interesting. He basically wants this judicial council rule that we were just talking about to get extended. So essentially, or not extended, but to remain in place. And essentially the judicial council, as Bruce was mentioning, has put quite a long timeline essentially on basically eliminating summons to courts. And so the mayor of Los Angeles is concerned that this may not keep up. He wants them to keep this, and obviously, you know, to be able to implement these rules for longer. So this is something that, you know, is changing every day. We don't know exactly how long it's going to last. People don't know when their cases are going to be seen in court. There is no for sure day. And then even when the courts do start to open up due to social distancing rules, it is going to take a long time for them to start to see the cases. And I'm sure that there will be a backlog in terms of, you know, ever having your case seen in court. Bruce, you said that you had a case, or was it Bruce or was it Steve, said you had a case already happening before coronavirus. So you might actually be closer in line to getting your case heard. Is that the way that they're handling it, where they're going to probably see the cases that were pending prior to coronavirus?
Okay, the thing is happening this way. In April, and they didn't pay rent, then they give me document on April 24th. Then they didn't pay rent in May. Then I contacted attorney served a 3-day notice, and they were saying, I cannot collect May's rent. I only can, the 3-day notice can collect the April rent because they did not file the documentation within 7 days.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that is one of the rules, the 7-day rule.
So I only can collect that, but of course they didn't pay that either. So the attorney filed some paper with the court, but they haven't get anything back.
Mm.
And Bruce was saying, if I request documents from a tenant, they'll be get sued. What is that?
Well, that's for the city of Los Angeles, as far as I'm aware. So, you know, the city of Los Angeles is the most strict. So again, you have to look at what your particular city may have put into place. I know for Orange County, there are some select cities that, you know, do have some more strict rules than what the governor of California has issued. So that would be something to look at in your specific city. But it's more the people in Los Angeles that have rentals in Los Angeles City, not just even the county, but the actual city, that should really be concerned there with how they're handling the process of even filing the eviction. And honestly, if you have a rental that is in the city of LA, I would recommend just going straight to an attorney just in case, because you don't want to be caught in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I let the attorney handle it. So every time I ask for rent, the tenant say, "Oh, you're harassing me, you're harassing me." So I just leave it for the attorney.
Yeah, here's just like a quick timeline that I created here, just so that we can put into context what we just talked about. So, basically, we had this state of emergency declared back in March, and then the executive order that the governor issued that basically allowed these cities to implement more strict rules, and counties as well. And then now, allowing tenants 60 days to respond to unlawful detainers, which makes this process even longer. And then judicial council, which is separate, they issued their own emergency rules, as Bruce was mentioning, that basically ceased the summons in the courts to 90 days past the California state of emergency. No, I've heard of some people say that, September, October, maybe, but you really, as far as I know, there is no definite date on the California state of emergency. Do you guys, so just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. And then also Newsom extended that authorization for Executive Order N28-20 all the way through July now. So another 60 days where this is going to be in place. And it seems like the timeline keeps getting extended and extended. So we just have to keep an eye out and make sure that, we're constantly looking at the legislation that's being passed, so that, in a worst case scenario, like in the city of Los Angeles, you're not getting fined.
Well, if I might, the presiding judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court, which includes all the courts in the county, gave a private talk a couple of weeks ago to describe what's going to be happening to the court system. The court system is supposed to reopen this week, in the sense that the clerk's offices were supposed to open on Monday. But judges on civil matters, and an eviction case is a civil matter, won't start working again until the 22nd. But what's going to happen is that the only matters that are going to be heard are the ones that are currently being heard, which are criminal cases and family law cases, typically involving domestic violence. So what's going to happen is, of the 550 judges in Los Angeles County, a number that are currently handling civil are not going to hear civil cases. They're going to be sent to the criminal courts to try to clear up the backlog of cases in the criminal court system by having settlement conferences, because those cases have an absolute priority over all other cases. The next cases with priority are eviction cases, but because of the freeze, we can't do anything about it. And so they are hoping that they're going to get through the backlog of the criminal cases by August, so that those judges can return to hearing civil matters. And they believe that, and this goes to your point about social distancing in the courtroom, that as far as jury trials are concerned, his prediction is that it's probably going to be the end of September or October before you can have jury trials, and it could be longer than that. Yeah, so there's one other point that's important, two other points. One, a federal judge, I believe in San Francisco, has ruled that the governor exceeded his authority in one particular aspect with one of these emergency declarations that he has been issuing. But more importantly, there are at least one and perhaps two lawsuits that have been filed in a federal court to have the federal courts overrule the freeze on these eviction cases. And there will probably be a hearing on that fairly quickly, I would think, by the end of the month. And the hope would obviously be that the federal judge would overrule or repeal all the restrictions that are being placed on the eviction system by the governor and by other elected officials under the authority of the governor. So that would be the hope. And the fact that a judge overruled one of them would tend to make all of the emergency ordinances suspect, but there's no way of knowing. It depends on which judge in Southern California is hearing the case.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting outcome in general. I mean, it certainly would make things a lot easier for landlords and I think tenants as well to have a more uniform type of ruling across the state. Because I think that this patchwork of legislation is just really leading to a lot of confusion. And, you know, at the end of the day, too, I think this keeps getting drawn out longer, and the consequences of doing that for landlords as well as for tenants is just going to be, you know, this is going to last a while, basically. Um, and you know, I was just reading here from Aaron. Thanks for contributing in the chat. Aaron was saying here that you know they started an eviction right before the COVID-19 shutdown, and it got their court date was supposed to be June 19th, and it just got delayed again. And now it might be in August, but they don't even have an exact court date. So it seems like the courts just don't even know themselves where to place people in terms of this timeline, because they're sort of just playing it by ear. And then also, you know, now you have these lawsuits that are in place that might repeal some of these types of rules that have been put for this emergency status. But you know, it's really a time of a bit of uncertainty, especially I think in Southern California with cities like Los Angeles. You know, it seems like Orange County has fewer restrictions than Los Angeles County in general. You know, as far as I could see, there were some cities that do have some particular ordinances. Some of them have expired by now, but that's another thing too. Some of them have actually renewed, like the city of Fullerton, for example, you know, where they're basically going to match the entire time of the state of emergency. They don't really have a cutoff date. So yeah, and Ray saying here, there may be new rules and legislation that may make things worse for landlords, and that's what worries me. So really interesting here to see your input. Now, just we already covered this, but here are some of the cities that I saw for Orange County that you might want to look into if you have if you have rentals in those cities. Those might be some good ones to go to the city website, find out. Even if you don't see your city listed there, I would still suggest it. Now, the other thing I wanted to do today was talk about COVID-19 in general. And now that places are starting to open up, we are seeing a lot more coming out about how to keep your rentals clean. And so one of the things I wanted to do is kind of give you guys a poll question here. Give me just a second here to get this ready for you guys. But essentially, you know, we received a lot of questions and also some concerns about COVID-19 and how to keep your rentals clean. So what I wanted to do today was actually have on, you know, a special guest who really knows about cleaning in general. And so let me go ahead and see if I can get her on the call because she was supposed to be logging in, and I think she may have had a hard time getting into the meeting. But for those of you who are on the call, if you could put in the chat, have you guys changed anything about your cleaning policies since COVID-19 started? So are you, you know, doing more cleaning more frequently? Go ahead and just put that in the chat. I'd love to see if you guys are having any sort of new, let's see here. All right, let me go ahead and see here if I can get this registration ready here for our special guest while you guys go ahead and input. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I definitely want to get her on the call. So she's basically a cleaning expert. She's the CEO of a cleaning company that services Los Angeles County and also Orange County. And she would be the perfect person to have on to talk about this. So see if I can get her here.
Okay, while you're getting there, I have a quick question. If you have a vacant unit right now, do you want to keep it vacant or you want to rent? Because if you rent, somebody moved in, they could just don't pay rent and live for a long time.
That's a good point. And I think that, you know, it's going to be up to you and what you're comfortable with during this time. I mean, I think there are definitely ways to rent out a property and do it intelligently. You know, you have to screen your tenants really well now more than ever. But even then, you do, you know, have a lot more restrictions than you ever did before. So it is something to consider. And, you know, those of you who are on the call, you want to chime in and, you know, let us know, are you filling your vacancies right now? Or are you keeping them open for a bit longer?
One of the things that you can do is you can get a lease agreement whereby you rent the property for a year and have the full year's payment made in advance. And this is a technique that is used quite a bit by landlords who own properties that are rental properties near universities. I know it's a very common situation where an owner will rent out a home that's within walking distance of SC to half a dozen students, but he'll insist that all 12 months rent be paid in advance. And that prevents the problem of him having to try to collect rent from 6 different individual tenants who are living in the house during the school year. And with the problems with schools caused by the pandemic, that would obviously be a good situation, because what if the virus comes back and all of a sudden the schools decide to close down again?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And I think too, also just thinking in general, even if you have somebody in the rental right now, you know, and they leave and you're left with a vacancy, getting it rented out isn't as easy right now as it was. I think it's starting to open up a little bit more where we're seeing vacancies start to fill up faster and lease signings are going up, but it is a little bit of a challenge right now for sure to fill a vacancy. Yeah, and I hear from Mason and Mark, most prospects will not have a year's rent to pay in advance. But then Mason says, you know, I did 6 months in advance and it worked perfectly. Paul says renting to essential workers helps. So yeah, absolutely. If you can verify an essential worker's employment, that's definitely going to obviously make you a lot more comfortable with the situation. And I would definitely suggest making sure that you're verifying employment as much as possible. So let me go ahead and
Yeah. I think 1 year's rent, not too many people can afford that upfront. I actually had one case, so I kind of demand 3 months. I think by 3 months, probably the moratorium probably will be lifted or something. So that's probably the best case on my issue with new rent.
yeah, absolutely. Another thing I wanted to discuss with you guys was a couple pieces of future legislation that I saw. I had a link here, but honestly, it's a little dated now that this was May 21st. But I saw AB 828, which a lot of people were concerned about. So basically saying here that tenants who can't pay rent can file a declaration with the court if they're being evicted and ask the court to reduce their rent by 25% and give them a year to pay it back. And I believe this would be for the entire state of California. I believe that they took out the reduce their rent by 25%. But this is something that is actually being considered right now. And we still, you know, would have to see how this would play out. I mean, it's pretty progressive when you're looking at basically, you know, delaying the rent payback way further out into the future. And reducing the rent is just also would be a big hit to landlords. So I'm pretty sure that won't go through with the rent reduction. I haven't checked the status of this bill as of like today, so I'm not sure if anything new has come about from it. But that's definitely one to look out for. The other one as well, SB 939. So this one's interesting as well. This is for commercial tenants. Does anybody on the call have any commercial tenants? Because I asked you before about, you know, single family and whatnot. So do you guys have any commercial type of type of rentals. Because if you do, this bill is actually pretty important. It's basically going to let commercial leases renegotiate their terms. And I saw that there was a legislator just recently who said they maybe are going to take back letting them end the lease completely. So that's going to be really interesting as well for commercial properties where leases that have been in place, you know, the terms were agreed on, and now they will be changed, and also giving them a 90-day time frame to catch up on rent. And that would really be a hard hit for retail landlords. But I know, you know, from what I can see on the call, just one of you looks like Divya. You have commercial rentals, so that's something that you should be looking into. But I don't see that a lot of you have that, so that might not be something you have to really look into just yet. But just something interesting though on the horizon, that commercial leases are also being addressed in these pieces of legislation. All right. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to do was have here our special guest. I think she just texted me and said that she is actually here. So let me go ahead and see if I can get her on camera. Let's see. Charlene, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I unmuted myself.
Yes, I heard you.
That.
There you are. Okay. So Charlene is our rental cleaning expert from Silver Lining.
I'm not a rental cleaning expert.
Oh, you're Charlene too.
Oh, okay. I'm
Well,
anything
Charlene,
but a rental cleaning expert.
That's rare that there's two Charlenes and in a webinar together.
I love it. Well, Charlene Fajardo, if I'm saying it right. That's the Charlene who is the Silver Linings Cleaning CEO, and she's on the call today. She runs a really successful cleaning company, and I ran into her just about a month ago, and we were talking about different cleaning policies and procedures that landlords can take to really protect their rentals. And so I'm so glad you're able to join, Charlene. I was getting kind of worried. I wanted you to share some things today. So for those of you who have rentals that you've had to adjust your cleaning policies for, if you're on the chat, go ahead and ask a question, or if you want to take yourself off mute about what have you been doing to really implement cleaning policies. And then, you know what, Charlene, I'm going to make you a co-host here with me. All right. The first question that I got here was really about frequency of cleaning. And so I think the question here is really about how often should I be cleaning common areas?
It depends on how much traffic there is and what everyone's doing to basically create a safe environment. So there's 3 factors on how people can get COVID-19 at this point, or really any virus. We've learned that it's through the eyes, nose, and mouth, through surfaces. And now that we're 6 months in, we all know that it is in the air as well. So a simple talking like this, I'm basically creating a bubble of minuscule molecules that need to basically be rid of. So best way to do it is to keep your airflow going. So if you're thinking of an area that's more enclosed, you want to develop a way to create fresh air, or at least airflow. If you cannot do that, then I would suggest disinfecting high touch points at least 2 or 3 times a day, depending on, again, how much traffic there is. So for example, we can use maybe a laundry room. Maybe what others can do is create a schedule of how often this location has been disinfected at what time, so that everyone going into that space knows about when it was disinfected. So it's really about tracking and the traffic.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the checklist, because Charlene actually shared a checklist with me that I want to share with you guys as well, because I thought it was really helpful. I just dropped it in the chat, and I think having a system to really show and document what you're doing to clean the rentals is extremely important, especially when it comes to, I don't know if there will be any lawsuits. I mean, I guess anybody can sue anybody for anything, but having a paper trail, having things documented is always the way to go. It's always, Bruce is shaking his head, yes, thumbs up. So the attorney on the call knows that that is extremely important. And, you know, the other question that I got as well was, what or can I do it myself, or should I hire a professional cleaning company? Because I think now some people are starting to look at maybe hiring a professional, but they don't really know if it's necessary. What would you say to that, Charlene?
Unless you're specifically trained to be able to handle not only the chemicals, but be able to protect yourself, I would suggest hiring, at least if not staff, a private company that could handle all the cleaning, just because it will need to be often, and you will have to know how to handle safety and surfaces multiple times a day.
Yeah, I think that's super true. And then also, I mean, at least personally, I mean, I don't have any sort of way to prove that I did the cleaning other than maybe the checklist, which could work. But I mean, I could imagine at least showing either a potential tenant, or hopefully not, but a judge in court, that you've done your role will be much more credible if you have a professional who did it versus you just saying that you did it yourself.
Exactly.
And then I think as well too, when we had talked, you had something really interesting that you had for COVID, which is like a certification.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think that's, I mean, I didn't know that existed, but is that something that you provide your clients?
Yes. So I've researched and been trained with Global Biohazard Advisory Council. It's basically a sister company of ISSA. It's a very large, world-renowned industry for cleaning. So basically what it is, it's a certificate that you can display at a door, window, to help people feel more at ease that you are taking the right steps to disinfect your location. So not only does this help potential residents keep an eye out for those types of signage, but it also will help your current residents also feel a little bit more safe that you're doing those precautions, taking those steps.
Yeah, and then another question that I just got, or actually I got this before the actual meeting today. Somebody had asked me if there are products that they can use that aren't traditional, like Lysol products, because I know those are like, I don't know if they're as hard to get now as they were when COVID first started, when things were just flying off the shelf. But what have you found to be like an effective cleaning tool if, let's say, a landlord can't afford to hire, you know, a really amazing cleaning company, and they really just want to make sure that the safety is first, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest for like cleaning alternatives?
So based off of CDC recommendations, they were able to put together a formula for anything that you need to make at home or for your office in case you are short on supplies, like many of us are experiencing. But what you can do is use at least 70% alcohol, warm water, and traditional dish soap. So that in itself is water, soap, cleans any surfaces, and the alcohol itself sterilizes.
Okay, yeah, and then I got also another question from Helen. What about UV light cleansing? And Mason says UV takes a long time. Is that true?
It depends on the machine that you have. So I've seen some that you walk in kind of like a metal detector, and then there's the lights that you can have stationary. But I mean, again, it depends on. It's hard to test that right now. I feel like it's a little new in the viral industry, but there's been a lot of tests going on.
Mason says he had a handheld device for that. So
have you tested positive now?
I know it's honestly it's funny because there's all these new technologies. We had a similar kind of meeting, and somebody was on there talking about like it was a security camera company, but they started implementing like these rooms where they could shoot lights at things and make them disinfected. And you know, it's interesting what they're coming up with now. But I think in general, though, I don't know if you really need to go to that extreme. I mean, it sounds to me like you know, just having, you know, a trained cleaning company is probably the best way to go about it.
Yes, exactly. So there are other companies like pesticide companies. I've heard of plumbers even trying to say that they can disinfect. But also, are they looking at what this disinfectant actually does to all your surfaces? With regular, you know, daily use, there's a peroxide that that many of these disinfectants have, and it could wear down surfaces. So you want to make sure that you're using something that's pretty safe, or if you are going to use the peroxide, use it, you know, in a sparing basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charlene, you know what? I'd love for you to share your screen because I know that you had your contact info on there, and I would love for people to be able to contact you if they have any more questions about cleaning. And then for those of you also that I mentioned that I was going to put in the checklist, I'm sorry, I didn't send it. I sent it wrong. So now you should have gotten it by now in your chat box. And then also, Charlene also shared with me a couple other resources that I thought were really cool, which is one from the CDC. So I'll drop that in the chat too for you to take a look at. Yeah, and Ray is saying that the problem with a lot of cleaning materials are chemicals which can be toxic to people. So that's obviously important. You know, you don't want to get someone sick while trying to prevent them from getting sick.
Absolutely. And actually, let me skip through to the types of disinfectant equipment that you can use. So a lot of people are using the mist sprayer. I've seen these with pesticide companies. We are using the fogger right here in the middle, the Ryobi. And then we are looking at more like ServPro type companies using the electrostatic sprayer. And all of these are great. What the most important part is, though, is the disinfectant. So it depends on what type of coverage you're wanting to use. We have the mister here, which is the least coverage. The middle point here is a fogger with good thorough coverage, and it is also atomized particles, which also captures dust. And then we have the electrostatic sprayer that basically is a positive charge, and it grabs around items as well. But if you're looking at different types of disinfectant, these are the types that we use. We use Ecolab peroxide solution, has a kill time of 1 minute. Neutral solution, more of a everyday type of solution, 10-minute dwell time. Cavicide is more for a hospital grade, and then we also have Maxim, which is safe for food surfaces like barbecues, tables, and kitchen countertops.
And are these products that anybody can buy?
Yes. So you just need pretty much a rep for Ecolab. Maxim, you can purchase that online, and these are all CDC and EPA approved.
Yeah, Mason seconds here that he uses an antimicrobial surface protectant that lasts for years and is non-toxic and EPA approved. Do you know of some longer lasting disinfectants like that?
That I'd have to research, but it sounds like a pretty good solution there. So it's more of a blanket surface.
Okay, so Ray is asking for us to type in the names of the cleaning materials. Could you go back to that slide that we just had a moment ago? Sure. With the different names? Because I think, oh, and there's a certification. I'm glad you went on that. That's what I was talking about. That's the document that's like proof that this was cleaned and certified cleaned, which is great. So I think it was Ecolab, right, is what you had?
Ecolab. We have, let me just exit out of full screen here. So this is Ecolab. This is a peroxide. We have Ecolab Neutral Disinfectant Cleaner. And then I can go back to the other ones. Cavicide and Maxim.
That's great. Okay, so I just typed that in for everybody. So I think we're approaching here the 11:45 mark, but I do want to open this up to questions for you guys. If you guys have questions just in general or questions about cleaning specifically, now that we have Charlene on the call, this would be kind of like our last call to ask a question. You can unmute yourself to talk if you want, or you can put your question in the chat if you're a little bit more shy. Okay, so quick one from Erin, not related to cleaning, but she's asking here if we can ask what can we ask and what can't we ask from residents claiming a COVID-19 hardship. I have 2 or 3, and I don't want to do the wrong thing. So, Erin, what city is the rental located in? I'd love to know that. You might have said that already. Hemet. Okay. So I think there's no requirement actually that a tenant does give you documentation according to the California law, but I believe that you can ask for documentation such as, you know, something from their employer, something showing maybe unemployment benefits that have been issued to them, but I don't think you can require it as a condition right now. Bruce, would you be able to second that as well? I want to make sure I have my facts straight there.
All right, this is a very important point. The statewide law that was the first law did afford landlords a small amount of protection, and there was a requirement that if a tenant was going to claim that they were unable to pay all or part of their rent on a monthly basis due to the virus, that between 1st of April and the 8th of April, they had to give notice of that fact to the landlord in writing. And if they failed to do so during that window, then they lost the ability at court, at a trial, to raise as a defense to eviction that they could not pay due to the virus. Now, very, very, very few tenants have done this. But there's no immediate impact. It's only going to kick in when you finally get into the eviction process. And when you go to court and they try to raise this as a defense, you're going to have to say, no, that's not what the rule was. Where's your evidence that you, in fact, gave notice to the landlord in writing of the fact that you were impacted by the virus? The other point is with respect to their providing evidence, all of the rules, the state, County of LA, City of LA, have a requirement that the landlord and the tenant are supposed to, quote, meet and confer in good faith, unquote, to document jointly the impact of the virus. And again, I'm not aware of any tenants who are voluntarily stepping forward and saying, oh, here's my pay stubs that show I've lost work, or here's my furlough notice from my employer. They're just not doing it because they don't realize the long-term impact that that's going to have down the road. But that's what the law does. And if you want to move the process along, what the landlords typically need to do is to reach out to the tenants and tell them that they have an obligation to meet and confer and discuss this to try to reach a resolution and a rent repayment plan over the 12-month period.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you gave us that clarification on it, because that is a pretty common question. Because I think a lot of landlords also sometimes, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, where they feel like maybe the tenant is lying to them about their situation and they maybe actually can pay rent, but they just claim COVID and stop paying altogether. They imagine that there's no consequence for it. So definitely important to know what you can and can't require.
I have a question about
Go
that.
ahead, Charlene.
What is considered correct notice? Is it just a text saying, I'm sorry, I can't pay the rent? Or does it have to be something more formal than this?
It's not stated in any of the rules or the ordinances or the orders. I can tell you from having done thousands of these trials that the judge will consider any sort of evidence. Back before 2008, I never saw a judge look at a video that a tenant had on a phone. Now they do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew a judge 10 years ago to deal with texts or emails. Now they do it all the time. So it's just a reflection of where society's heading. I mean, we have all these videos of the riots and so forth. But if they sent you a text and they pull up their phone and there's text on it, then the judge is going to say, yeah, they gave you notice. They put you on notice. But it's got to be within that limited time period, which is expired.
Yeah.
Also, there have been these subsidies that rent, the unemployment checks and I think, isn't there like 600 per child that is being given to families? Bruce, isn't there something like that to help?
I don't know. I do know that one of the basis to get sued for the $10,000 or the $15,000 is if you request that the tenant turn over their stimulus checks to you to pay the rent. That's a violation.
I thought, this is what I'm wondering, because when tenants say they can't pay, the landlord is not allowed to say, well, what did you do with all this money from the government?
No, you can ask as part of the good faith meet and confer process, but you can't march in or send a letter saying, give me your $2,400 stimulus check or I'm going to evict you.
Yeah.
No. I mean, when tenants say they can't pay, I've asked the ones, well, can you tell me what kind of payments that you have received? I know you say you can't go to work, but what kind of government assistance? And I've never gotten any kind of documentation from them. They either say, well, they haven't gotten any so far, or they had to spend it on food or something. But I've never gotten a formal accounting of what's happening to the money. It's just, I can't pay.
Right, because tenants are tenants. They're not in business as tenants. They just live there. You're in the business of housing tenants, and so you're running your business like a business. They're just living the way that they've always lived. But Alexandra's point is the best point, is that you need to keep a journal or a log of your attempts to meet and confer with these people and document the fact that they're not performing, that they're not cooperating with you. Date, time, and place.
Yeah, and then it's up to a judge when it gets seen eventually, hopefully, that judge will then ask the tenant. I mean, it'll be different based on every judge. Each courtroom is going to vary in how they handle that, unless there's, a statewide ruling on exactly how to do it. There isn't yet. So that'll be really interesting, because at that point, that's where the evidence is going to come out. And that's where we'll really see whether or not the tenant did in fact have hardship that qualified for them not paying rent. So yeah, it's really interesting, actually. I'm curious to see how things are going to pan out once the courts start to see these cases, and how each judge will handle the tenant's defenses that come into play. So
imagine that the courts are going to be absolutely swamped and back. Yeah. The flood of cases.
They are. There's no question about it. The day the statewide notice went out, I sent a letter to all of my clients saying, if you have any tenants that you feel you're going to evict, you need to file the paperwork now. And none of them did, because, they didn't. I think I know the reasons, but nobody's told me what the reasons are.
Well, you can't file because you can't process serve now.
Back then you could have, and you would have been ahead of all the other people who are going to file when the ban is lifted.
Yeah, there was a time, and unfortunately now it is a bit too late. And
no, they had that from the get-go. My process servers told me from the get-go, as soon as this started, that no, they're not allowed to serve notices.
No, that's not true.
Oh.
That's only after April 6th. There was a period of time from that first date that Alexandra showed in March until the April 6th notice from the Judicial Council, when you could have filed and it could have been processed.
Okay.
Yeah, the Judicial Council, which is separate, and I think people don't realize it's a separate entity from the governor and the mayor, and that is really what has issued out the rules for the courts. And so that was really set it in stone. And their whole thing is going to be 90 days past the state of emergency. And we don't really know, if that's going to stay in place. I showed you earlier that letter that Mayor Garcetti put out on Twitter, basically begging them to keep that in place, so that this can continue longer. So we'll see if anything changes, if maybe they change their mind and they issue something else that might make it easier for landlords. But so far, there isn't anything there. So Charlene, I want to go back to Charlene real quick. She put in her phone number. I also put in her email. I'll email you guys all of Charlene's contact info. And if you guys also want to, connect with anybody here and you want to put in your email in the chat, go ahead and put your email in the chat. If, you're looking for a landlord to talk to kind of bounce ideas off of, or, just share your experience, we'd love to have you guys participate. You guys can do like a thumbs up, or you guys can put your email in there so that we can connect a little bit more. I'd really love to do this on a regular basis to make sure you guys are up to speed on what's going on. And then as for Charlene, I also saw, somebody put in an article and a link to different ways to clean and protect and get vacancies ready. So that was another question that came up. I think I'm going to end it with this question, and maybe Charlene, you can help me out with this. What is the procedure standard for when you have a vacancy, filling it safely and making sure that the rental is clean for that?
So what you first need to do is clean all surfaces. You want to do your turnover as you usually do, the paint, the clean cabinets. But on top of that, applying that disinfectant on that location, but also having that space cleared for at least 3 to 4 hours, depending on the type of disinfectant you use. So that's a key thing there. And like I mentioned to you, or like I sent over to you guys, the checklist, just having everything documented is key.
Okay, well, we'll end it with that. I think moral of the story is document everything that you do, every communication with tenants, whether you're having problems with them or you're just filling a vacancy, and you don't have a problem yet, you want to make sure that you are documenting everything during this time. I know there's going to be a tidal wave, unfortunately, of lawsuits that are going to be coming, not just towards landlords, but also towards, any type of business you can think of. And I think that we all need to be really prepared and make sure that we're informed and also documenting everything that we do during this time. So with that being said, thank you guys all for joining in. This was a really great conversation. I know we learned a lot. And Bruce, you really made it helpful, and Charlene too. I'm so glad to have
you. Going to educate
experts.
me, not me educating other people.
I know, Bruce. You honestly had so much to say, and Charlene too. Great topics. I mean, these are things that we try to really be as informed about as we can. But at the end of the day, experts really just know because it's obviously their field. They know exactly what's going on and what to do.
All right. I put my number in the chat room. I am in the middle of trying to finish a brief for the California Court of Appeals that's due on Thursday, because they're still in business. But I have an assistant who helps me and has helped me for many years. And if you call, and if I can't take the call, I'll refer you to him and he can answer your questions.
Great. And Charlene, thank you. Bruce, thank you. And everyone else who participated. Good luck, and I'll send you guys out another invite. We're going to have a discussion on AB 1482, which is the California rent control law that was passed January 1st, 2020. So a lot of you guys are under rent control and you don't even know it. So make sure that you do join in that webinar. I'll be sending out an invite to all of you guys for it. In fact, I'm going to put a link to it in the chat for you just in case here, because I really think that that's going to be the next, and this is going to be more of a webinar, less of a discussion, but I really think this is the next thing that you really should attend here with us. It's July 9th. So I'm going to send you the link here to register. And basically, we're going to have an attorney just go over all of the details that rent control law is about and how it applies to you. Let me go ahead and send that to everyone here before we log out. And then I'm going to send you guys the recording of this meeting tomorrow. So take a look out for that. And in the meantime, Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.